Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
This is Serious Privacy by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart and Kay Royal.
After being out of touch for nearly 3 weeks, 2 weeks vacation, 1 week where my company had their retreat, I was expecting the privacy world to have completely just blown up while I was gone, and 15 laws would be passed and this many settlements and that many enforcements. And it seems like it might have been a little quiet. In this episode, Paul and I are going to catch up on what's happened while I was gone after, thankfully, our step-in co-host was able to join us and keep us moving forward. Thank you, Ralph.
My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy.
Welcome back, Kay.
Welcome back to Serious Privacy, right? It's kind of odd to come back after such a break. I don't think I've taken one like that before.
You haven't on the podcast, no.
Right? And I think I recall you saying similar when you took a break as well and came back. It's kind of like, I really had a fabulous time, but I'm completely out of touch with anything happening in the world.
Well, to be honest, I'm completely out of touch with anything happening this week because I've just been head down in drafting a new data protection notice. So following anything that has happened, not so much. So we'll see what we have for our users this week. Maybe it will users. I mean, I'm so much on a one-track mind that our listeners are now our users. Sorry, listeners. Let's see what we have for our listeners this week. Maybe it will be a very short episode.
And all of you fans out there that are operational privacy people, you're sitting there with me laughing, going, welcome to our world, Paul. Welcome to our world. It takes being able to focus on something with no outside distractions to get something quality done. So that's done. So, okay, beautiful. Let's do an unexpected question. This one's an interesting one. Why are you impressive?
That's not for me to say about myself. That's for others to say.
I'm looking at what answers have I put over here over the past few years. So my answers over the past few years range from, because it's a 5-year book, was from love for privacy, passion, authenticity, vibrancy, and in 2020, which was the last year I answered this, I'm not.
You were not in a good mindset back then.
Not in 2020.
Well, I mean, it was COVID time, so let's turn this one around. I'll answer it for you. I think you are impressive because of all the passion you have for the things you do, not just your work in privacy, but also your family. And yes, you can be loud, but there is a lot of content beneath the loudness. And not everybody who is loud. Usually people who are loud have something to hide, that they actually are insecure and don't know a lot. And that is not the case. So that is why you are impressive.
You are impressive because you're so insightful.
Oh, thank you.
No,
maybe not this week.
I'll be serious. That I have always been so impressed by you because not only, and I mean, insightful was a joke, but it's true as well. You are very insightful. Having your finger on the pulse of what's going on in privacy in, what's known as the hottest privacy market in the world in Europe, and being able to understand the nuances among the countries and how that's going to impact the world. I mean, I've always been blown away by you in the 1 30-minute session we ever met. So, yeah. And I know you're coming over to DC this week, and unfortunately, I'm not going to make it to DC to see you. The people who will, their lives will be much better for having you in it.
Yeah, it's very sad. We still won't be able to see each other in person, but who knows what 2023 will bring.
That's true.
And I mean, you were in the Netherlands. You were in the Netherlands. Well, as
I was going to say, I came to your country. There was even bitterballen on all the menus.
Very good. Just to clarify, it was the overseas territories of the Netherlands in the Caribbean.
So, but it was very nice. I very much enjoyed my time. And I will say, as I mentioned to you earlier, I learned that I am not a 2-week cruise person. I am a 1-week cruise person. Apparently 2 weeks, I just get bored off my noggin. And yeah, I did take my computer with me and I did work. Go figure. I drafted some new policies, worked some more on our privacy notices, things like that. It was fabulous. And then my company is having their first retreat, first time in person since they were essentially a 20-25 person office back before COVID when they had a physical office. So this is the first time that the 130, 150 people with the company have gotten together. And they did so right here in Scottsdale. And of course, I got sick. I think I just didn't recover from my cruise. I was sick the last 3 days of my cruise, and I was scared to death they were going to, I don't know, put me off on some island in the middle of nowhere or drop me off in a lifeboat, kick me off the ship. We're not allowed to have sick people here or something. But yeah, I'm still recovering. It's not COVID, thank goodness. It's just winter crud. And it's storming here in Arizona. We've got rainstorms and it's cold. It was like 40 degrees or something this morning.
Yeah, that's what we call autumn.
We don't believe in autumn. We believe in summer and not quite summer. So I'll be honest, I have only vaguely kept up with privacy things the past few weeks. I know there's something about, someone bought Twitter and apparently is going to change the way it operates. And I've seen quite a few of our privacy friends say that they're either getting off Twitter and moving to Mastodon, or they're opening a Mastodon account. And I have not even looked up anything about Mastodon to figure out if it's something I even want to follow them to.
Well, that I did, and I actually have opened a Mastodon account. So people can find me there as well. I will still be Europol B, and there is an at something behind it, but you'll find it on my Twitter where I am on Mastodon as well, if you want to. It seems, at least for now, a more friendly place. People are actually welcoming you to the platform if you join. And people post messages saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I do in life. So you do actually introduce yourself to the world again. And it's a bit like the early days of Twitter. So who knows, maybe this is the community that will help to keep us sane and friendly. But we'll see.
Okay, so I opened up Mastodon. And it says Mastodon is decentralized, so no matter where you create your account, you'll be able to follow and interact with anyone on this server. You can even self-host it. When you go own this server, it says creating an account on mastodon.social is currently not possible. But keep in mind, you do not need an account specifically on mastodon.social to use Mastodon. And then you can create it on a different server.
Yes.
Since Mastodon is decentralized, you can create an account on another server and still interact with this one. And it has this big button that says find another server.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So I'm at social.anoxion.de, which is a civil rights group out of Germany. I thought that is actually something that sounds reliable and safe and European. So that is...
okay, reliable, safe, and European. I like that.
That's what I decided upon, but there are new servers popping up most continuously. There is also one from the European Commission, EU policy. There are some from the German government that you can use, so that it is indeed all decentralized. So it is basically like an email address. And email addresses also talk all to each other.
Interesting.
Whatever platform you use, whatever server you use, they can all still talk to each other. But
some of them are marked private, invite only. There are 655,000 users. It's up 65%. There is a mast.dragonfly club. There's a toot.im, which is invite only. I'm probably cussing in another language, reading out some of these names for what they have. There is IEJI.de. There is one .nl, Mastodon.nl. At least I understand where that one is. There's a Feedybird, a Libertalia, a WXW.mo. This is interesting. So I just need to create my own server and could just call it the Heart of Privacy server?
You can.
Why?
If you have something to run a server on.
I don't even know what you would run a server on. So there's a nerd culture. Interesting. Okay, people. So I'll probably join Mastodon just so I can go through the process of actually joining Mastodon. And we'll see what that does. If no one else snags it before I do, I'll be Heart of Privacy somewhere. So that's interesting. Okay. Also, Microsoft came out with their digital defense report. Thank you, Victoria Beckman, for posting it so I can easily find it. And she says in here that Microsoft's team synthesized 43 trillion signals a day. And then based on it, they aim to understand the scope and the scale of digital threats around the world. And she posted some really good information on here. The report itself we'll make sure we link to in the description so you have. Part of it is on ransomware, that the human-operated ransomware is the most prevalent, as 1/3 of the targets are successfully compromised by criminals using these attacks, and 5% of those are ransomed. So it's really interesting, the information that's in here. We can dig into it into more detail if any of you have questions. But there are 2,500 potential target organizations, 60 encounter activity associated with known ransomware attackers, 20 are successfully compromised, and 1 falls victim to a successful ransomware event. So you can see what their return on investment is. Even if they just get 1, it's huge. There is attacks against remote management devices are on the rise, with more than 100 million attacks observed in May of 22, a 5-fold increase over the past year. And the most prevalent ransomware phase techniques, 75% use admin tools, 75% use acquired elevated compromised user accounts to spread malicious payloads through an SMB protocol. 99% attempt to tamper with discovered security and backup products using OS-built tools. So it's really, as we get in here and talk about it, I'll give you this last little bit of stats that I see top of mind without going into details. The industry sectors that are targeted by nation-state actors, the largest is information security. 20% is other, and I don't like that category.
Especially not if it's so big.
Right? It's like, it's 20% is other. Wow, that's not informative. You have to go read it and see what the others are. Think tanks and NGOs are 17%. Education is 14%. That one doesn't surprise me, as we've heard a lot of noise about education over the past year or two. The FTC here in the U.S. is ramping up their enforcement work when it comes to education and surveilling children. So that's not surprising. Government is 10, and then the rest of them are 5 or 2 or, somewhere right around there. Finance, media, healthcare, transportation, intergovernmental organizations, and communication. So it's really interesting when you look at it like that, the evolving threat landscape. So the most is here in the U.S. and North America. So there's a little bit over, it looks like, in Europe and Asia that are considered the most. And then, funny enough, the least seems to run around South America and then over in Northern Europe. And then there's a whole bunch of countries in Africa that they're not any color. I don't think there's any shocks in here. It's just good information to stay on top of. I did hear some noise of some other things going on, Paul.
Well, in any case, if
some VPAs.
Yeah, there are a few more things. If you are interested in threat reports and security issues and things like that, you may also want to take a look at the new 2022 report from ENISA on network information security.
Yes.
That's the European Security Agency that also came out this week. But
we'll make sure to post a link to that too. You got any highlights from it?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I only send it to my colleagues
for information. We'll post that in there. I think it's interesting that the two of them come out at basically the same time. I wonder if the information is pretty much the same.
I would say so. Maybe also good for people to realize is that the Digital Services Act was officially published by the European Union
Yes.
on the 23rd of October in the official journal. And that means that it will enter into force in 20 days, so somewhere in November. But more importantly, it will officially apply as of the 17th of February 2024. So early 24. And that means that especially online companies that deal with chat functionality, for example, or with visuals, or offer an online marketplace like Katawiki does, you will need to make sure that you have policies in place for the removal of illegal and harmful online content, things that are counterfeit, things that are fake, things that are hazardous or in other ways illegal.
Right.
So that is one of the main things coming out of the Digital Services Act. Also complaints mechanisms in case of negative decisions. And there is also enhanced verification of sellers if you run an online marketplace. So there needs to, for example, be ID verification, trade register check, and also a self-certification by sellers of EU law compliant offerings. So, for example, if somebody sells alcohol, that it meets all the EU obligations for selling alcohol. And that the product
got it. Very
also
nice.
means all the quality criteria.
And we know that there are some things that have happened lately. When we say I haven't kept up with it, we mean, in the past few days, we don't know what's hot right now, although I have a feeling we probably are still keeping our finger on the pulse more than a lot of people are. I don't know why that's my saying du jour, but apparently, yeah, we're going to go with pulses today. Which translates wonderful into one of the news stories that I was following about a U.S. senator seeking feedback on healthcare cybersecurity legislation. Not surprising. We've tried this a little bit. HIPAA is supposed to be undergoing some revisions. We know that healthcare is very much a target of cybersecurity. Most of the systems in healthcare don't tend to change and modernize as quickly as other industries do. Of course, there's the CPRA regulations. It's gone through the first consideration and rewrite. So I believe either they issued the newest rewrite or they've just issued their discussion on them of what parts they were going to take up in their meeting. I think the meeting was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago over a weekend. You were able to tune in, watch the meeting, see what they talked about. So that's going to be interesting coming out of that as well. And then, of course, there was one other that tickled me other than the Twitter thing. Other than that, was it something about the French DPA and South Korea signed an agreement for joint enforcement or something along that line? Because I remember seeing it. I read it, but I didn't consider it in detail.
They did, actually.
I remember sitting there thinking, those are the last two data protection regulators we want to get together and come out with No. The French is very active. South Korea is a lot more active than a lot of people would imagine they would be, which is interesting as well. And so I just remember reading that going, oh, yay.
Yes, it's true. I can confirm. As you may recall, the last week of October, the global privacy community came together in Istanbul for the Global Privacy Assembly.
Yes.
You were not there. I wasn't there.
I was not
Ralph
there.
wasn't there. But still, the community came together. And in the margins of that event, multiple bilateral agreements were signed, including indeed between the PIPC from Korea and so
Nice.
It is a cooperation agreement that opens, in their own words, a new chapter of cooperation, allowing to address together the challenges posed by the protection of personal data in all areas of life for French and Korean citizens. So in any case, they will...
Nothing
all areas
is sacred.
Nope. So they will indeed for joint investigations, mainly into new technology and data protection questions. They will share best practices and experiences, including in ongoing investigation. They will do joint workshops to train staff and even allow for staff exchanges.
Interesting. Now, okay, so here's the thing. The GDPR is the strongest multinational privacy legislation out there. I think you can still say that, even though the UK has its own version of the GDPR, which is slowly being assimilated into another, not quite the GDPR thing. But I've always held that South Korea has actually the strongest privacy laws in the world. Every time I say that now, I wonder if it's true with China, because China's pretty darn strong. However, they're not very active in enforcement right now. I imagine they will be. They've started enforcement activity. We are seeing something, but they still have some things to clarify and some things to nail down in there. What's your opinion? What do you think about South Korea versus China versus the GDPR?
I mean, South Korea is much more experienced in terms of data protection because they have data protection law that goes back way longer. They have a tailored data protection supervisory authority, where in China it is still the Cyberspace Administration of China, which also has a lot of other tasks on their plate, probably also are still coming to terms with how data protection legislation should apply in practice. So I don't think it's a surprise that South Korea is quite a number of years ahead of China when it comes to data protection. And yes,
the laws,
of you out there,
are keep an eye on South Korea.
Yeah, and I mean, South Korea has reorganized their data protection structure also quite impressively in the past couple of years. When I joined the regulatory community back in 2011, there were still 4 supervisory authorities in China. In South Korea. And I think that has now all been merged into one single supervisory authority.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And they are very active. You don't hear a lot about South Korea enforcement activity. I don't know if it's just because it doesn't make the news, or if it's the fact that it's, a small country, one small country, South Korea, just doesn't make the headlines like others do. But if you're sitting here thinking that the biggest challenge to comply with data protection laws is still Europe, it is a big challenge. Don't get either one of us wrong. But you need to go look at South Korea. My recommendation is to hire a privacy lawyer or data protection lawyer in South Korea and let them guide you, please. Let them guide you.
Yeah, and I think it's also for a lot of people a black spot because they don't do as much business in South Korea as they do in the European Union, which means that
probably true. Okay, let's see. What else do we have?
There is another decision out of Denmark, which surprised me a little, and there is a similar decision from Sweden, which is about opt-out lists. As you know, companies can collect a lot of marketing data to send emails, and if there is no prior relationship, you will always need consent to be able to send marketing emails. And then people can opt out. However, if you then purchase something again, it could be that you would be
reestablishing that business relationship.
You are reestablishing that business relation, so you would be re-opted into certain marketing emails or other marketing communications. And I think that a lot of companies, for that reason, would maintain an opt-out list so that they can keep track of people who have said, no, I don't want you to reach out to me, and I don't want you to reactivate reaching out to me. Apparently, according to the Danish and the Swedish data protection authorities, that is not allowed because they think...
Which makes no sense. Okay, so here's the scenario, and we went through this with the business we know. A guy kept opting out of marketing lists. I mean, he opted out. Then he would go sign up for something, a webinar or a newsletter or a coupon or ask a question, and it would put him back on the marketing list, and then he would opt out again. If the company did not keep a do not contact list, there's no way we could have maintained honoring his request time after time after time after time after time. Now, most people don't get that bad, let's be honest, but it makes no sense to me. I mean, in some ways it makes sense, but in the larger way,
this would be slightly different in Europe because their registering for a webinar would not automatically put you on an email list because that would not just be allowed. Then you would still need the opt-in for further communications. But
now that is a note that people need to pay attention to. You need to have that checkbox that people would affirmatively, explicitly click to opt into marketing. That's true too.
Exactly. But if you, for example, would purchase something, then there is a commercial relationship.
Yeah.
And that might open up the legitimate interest route to send certain marketing communications. If people have opted out before, yes, I think it would make sense to keep track of that. According to at least the Danish and the Swedish data protection authorities, that would not be allowed because it would be processing of personal, and there would not be a good legal basis to do so.
But the overprocessing is legitimately for the other person's interest and protection. It is not for the company. It is for the other. It's for the consumer. I'm sorry, this one makes no sense to me. Maybe it's I can't wrap my U.S. brain around it because, you're opted into everything here in the U.S., whether you want to be or not, and we assume we will be.
Well,
But,
I'm the typical
yeah.
lawyer here. I have both opinions. I understand it and I don't understand it.
Oh, and today is Love Your Lawyer Day. We're
Thank
recording
you.
this on Friday, November the 1st. Today is Love Your Lawyer Day. I'm loving, hands up, props to Paul. He's my lawyer. Okay, he's my privacy lawyer in terms of this. Okay, no, enough disclaimers.
Yeah, I cannot be your lawyer because I have no standing in U.S. courts, so I cannot be your lawyer.
Which, by the way, that reminds me of something that we've not really talked about on the show. It's not really privacy related, but somewhat related, is the issue of something being under privilege. So when you have communications with your attorney and you get advice, it's under privileged communications. There's also an associated concept called a work product created. Quite often, companies will get asked if what they're doing falls under privilege. That's very hard for the company to answer because if they're not a law firm, nothing they do goes under privilege. It would have to be the other party's attorney. Did they ask for this information under privilege? And then it goes by local rules. So here in the US, there could be 50 different, or 51 if you count DC, local rules of when privilege can attach. So it's very hard for a company to answer that question. The lawyer is the one that needs to answer that question for the company that's asking is if it's under privilege. But two things you need to know. One, privilege isn't really a thing in Europe. So,
not in all of Europe.
Yeah.
And there is a distinction whether you are an attorney admitted to the bar working as outside counsel or whether you are in-house counsel. And also that differs from country to country. In the Netherlands, an in-house counsel is never subject to privilege. Only outside counsel can rely upon privilege.
Can rely upon, and here in the US, if you're inside counsel, you have to take a very close look at, are you giving legal advice in terms of litigation or potential litigation, or are you giving business advice in terms of the risks in privacy would come with personal data? So, but the other thing that people need to keep in mind, and this is something I think a lot of people forget, facts are not privileged. Only advice is privileged. Facts are not privileged. So that's just a little nugget that we're going to throw to you on Love Your Lawyer Day. So, okay. What else do we have? There was something else I was going to mention. I haven't seen anything new come out on the thingy other than just, people's opinion on whether or not this transatlantic data framework agreement thingy is going to actually materialize. Of course, still seeing a lot of conversation about whether or not an executive order is sufficient. I'm still saying the same thing that I said weeks ago when we first talked about it. If an executive order is not real enough law, then why did the Court of Justice for the European Union rely on Executive Order 12333 to criticize the U.S. practices? If it's not real law, then they shouldn't have worried about that one either. In no way, form, or matter am I saying it's the be-all, end-all, this will settle it all, we're great. It's just here in the U.S., and as Paul mentioned before, part of the problem is the U.S. legal world being vastly different from the European legal world and constitutional courts and executive orders and things like that. So part of it just comes to that. So yes, I'm being a little bit of a Pollyanna in that I think that this is a wonderful first step. By God, we took a step. That's where I am on that. But also it's legitimate. An executive order has to be followed as if it's law unless Congress comes behind it and one, either passes a law to get rid of it, or two, passes a law to codify it into statutory law, or it's still subject ultimately to the United States Supreme Court for the interpretation of law. And so all of that, it still has going for it. It's what we're going to do with it otherwise that's really going to matter. And I'm still excited to see what the next steps are going to be, although I kind of feel like we're in a world where, the man that's holding the world on his shoulders, Atlas, is now taking a very slow motion, lumbering step forward, and our world is rocking a little bit. But yeah, eventually that foot will come down and we'll see what's next.
Yeah, we will. And one of the things that we still haven't seen is the commercial part.
Yeah.
So also for that, we're still waiting. I think that is all we have for this week. It's been a slightly quiet week, at least on the news side, with all the work that continues. It's never quiet, and privacy has never a dull moment. And especially with tech billionaires trying to intervene in our world, it won't be quiet for the foreseeable future. But yet,
and we're coming into the holiday season. So we always have to put you on notice for that. I know y'all all know Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that's coming, but we have to warn you what that means, because in Europe, people take holidays seriously and they actually slow down work.
Well, first we speed up work so that by the time we get to mid-December, we can slow down.
Here, I would say here in the U.S., people slow down work too, but it's kind of hit and miss, as to what they do. Sometimes they get the, oh crap, the year's coming to the end, I need to hurry up and get this done feeling. So we may see something earth-shattering by the end of 2022. I'm not going to hold my breath. Paul and I will still cover it for you, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
We already know of one thing that's coming by the end of 2022, and that is the 27th of December.
Yes.
And Kay is now looking at me. What was it all about? 27 December is the deadline for the standard contractual clauses update.
Yes, that's where I was going with it. That's when all of your cross-border transfers that are being done under the standard contractual clauses have to be moved over to the new standard contractual clauses. Although I don't think we ever saw the international cross-border addendum thing that they were going to work on that was going to tack on to all of the things.
They're still working on it. Like they are still working on the review of the existing adequacy decisions that was due by the 25th of May of 2022.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're a little behind on that one, aren't they?
They are. And on that note, we wrap up another episode of Serious Privacy. If you like our episodes, please rate and review us in your favorite app on your favorite platform. Join the conversation on LinkedIn. Find us as Serious Privacy, or follow us on Twitter as @podcastprivacy. You will find Kay on Twitter and Mastodon soon as Heart of Privacy, and myself as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye. Oh, and before we really say goodbye, thank you, Ralph, for stepping in for Kay.
Yes. Everyone gives props to Ralph. So appreciate it. Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data, and get credible, cited answers based on NIMD research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.